Do you want to go do the podcast?
Let's do a podcast.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
This is 10 minutes.
You say something and I'll make sure we're good to go.
Something, and I'll make sure we're good to go.
Yeah, that's making a noise. One more
Yeah.
thing. Say something loud.
Something loud.
Yeah, perfect. We got it.
Something loud.
This
something
is the
borrowed, something loud.
This is the only reason I'm in London. I want you to know that. I don't know if I said this. So I watched.
Flattery will only get you
Well, it's
somewhere.
It's been a complicated.
And that somewhere is 6 to 10 Lexington Street. Welcome.
What a fine place it is here in the heart of Soho. I don't know if it is the heart of Soho or on the periphery. It feels
is.
the bum
It
of
is.
Soho.
It is, but you're lying. And
No?
why start the interview off with a lie?
Why? I genuinely, I've been here once before.
No,
We were-
not. I mean, it's a
Oh, that
lie
I came here
you've,
for this?
You've come to London for this interview.
It's genuinely not. So my friend Sam Campbell sent me the Blondie Way out of apropos of nothing. He just sent it to me. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what was going on. I watched it. I loved it. To track you down, he had come to one of the premieres with his friend Ray Badron, who's friends with
I like him. I met
Crookshank. Yes, lovely fella. One of the best handstands Ray Badron you'll ever see.
Is that
He's
a euphemism? Or
No, he
an
literally
innuendo?
goes to the Edinburgh Fringe and he finishes his show with a big handstand. And also a fine table tennis player. Great stories about Ray Badron. So I got to call you. I was in Chicago. I was having a very bad time in Chicago. We were living in a vibrant area in Austin. My wife was having a panic because we had a man who kept coming around the house. And so in between that time we spoke
What do you
on the
mean
phone.
by that?
We had a local...
You're speaking in riddles,
We had a homeless
James.
man who asked to do some yard work and then he just kept showing up all hours of the night. And then a baseball bat was hidden out front in some bamboo offcuts that he'd made, and we thought it was complicated.
I hate it when that happens.
It was. People. I bought him a telephone. People told me I shouldn't have done that. I got a prepaid telephone so he could call before he came over because he couldn't otherwise do it.
You bought
We've
him a
lost touch with-
telephone and you gave him your number.
Yeah, I couldn't see how he could use that to get at me, but I may be naive. But he has
What?
never gotten in contact since I gave him a telephone. Sad. We did
Sad.
move house as quickly as possible.
You don't know about
after
playing
getting
it cool then.
No, we don't really have these type of issues. Shuffle forward, I'll do it. So we spoke then about, I thought I could come over in January and just do a quick weekend trip to London. Very quickly we were moving house because of that situation. I couldn't do it. So I booked this trip. My friend Shane Gillis is opening. I may open for him, but I wasn't booked as an opener on the trip. I'm booked for other shows, but he's going with some lovely people without children. I'm not a good guy to bring on the road in London. I'm not going to go and get on the harp in Dublin town. I couldn't do it. So I said, do you mind if I'm there at the same time? Is that weird? And he said, no, that's all right. So I accidentally booked this trip, the only time I had available, my daughter's birthday. So I had to bring the whole family or not be in time for my daughter's birthday. Then I had to add a show to pay for it all. It spiraled out of control. But this is the only... Once this is done, I'm relaxed with my time in London.
Are you serious though?
Yeah.
Are you actually being
No,
sincere?
that's it. I think it's the best TV show I've seen in many years. And,
really
and
kind of
it
you.
doesn't have a huge audience. You've not done comedy before. This is my understanding.
No.
You're a skateboarder.
Not on purpose.
No, well, just in the day-to-day. You're a skateboarder, and then you open this beautiful fashion house. Is that the word that we that we use?
Fashion home.
Fashion home. Yeah, it's better. And then you just... Can you tell me why? I mean, why did you decide to make a situation comedy?
Well, first of all, just so I don't forget to, down the line, thank you so much for saying all those very kind things and for coming here. I'm thrilled to host you. I can't believe that you're being serious, actually, that you engineered everything around this. I'm so touched.
I've got the receipts. I think I went on about it on the podcast for a long
I'm touched.
time.
Even if it were a lie, I'd be touched by
Okay.
your by your lie. So thank you, first and foremost. Most. And what was the question again? Why did I want to
Why
make
go
a
from-
situational comedy?
Yeah, what sparked that?
I'm not sure that anything... Well, if one thing sparked it, It was an interaction, a scenario which is covered in the show, in the first scene, well, the first proper scene in the cafe in the show. In the Regency, I talked to Jack about the genesis of the show within the show, and that is the real genesis
You
of
really
the
did
show.
just want a hobby.
No,
No?
I really did a BBC Three show because at the time they asked, I just thought, at the time that they asked, I thought I could, if I still spoke to my therapist, she'd tell me, you should be a bit adventurous, you should be a part of someone else's thing for once, not completely control something. So I did it.
Yeah.
I was a guest judge on a BBC Three competition show about clothes. And on that, I really enjoyed the experience because I got on really well with all of the crew, and I enjoyed seeing how it was done. And as I said in the show, I think that was mutual because and I'm sure the British TV industry being pretty quiet at that time was also a factor. They all said, if you ever want to do anything, let us know. And I met up with one of them I met up with the director and the DOP for lunch about 7 or 8 months on, maybe a bit more than that. And I was only answering his question of what have you been up to when I said, well, actually, I've been waking up early every morning and writing a scripted comedy. And it turns out they really meant it. They said, well, don't tell anyone about it. Please don't let anyone do it other than us. We're desperate to do it. We'll pull all of the strings. We'll tell everyone we know to pull all of their strings, and we'll make this thing happen for you. And we understand, and this was crucial, that from the outset, we will be facilitating a new thing. We have the know-how.
Yes.
We are technicians. We are seasoned professionals, experienced professionals, and we know how it's done. And we can fall back upon that knowledge if necessary. But what's very exciting for us is knowing how it's done and not doing it that way. And instead,
Yes.
it was an interesting blend of my complete ignorance
Yes.
and their experience.
This is how Citizen Kane was
That
made.
was why it was fun for us both.
But I think Citizen Kane, he talks about there are shots that no one had done before in Citizen Kane, and he had a technical team who could get it done, but he would just say, I see it this way. And people were going, well, it's not usually done that way. We don't know.
Orson Welles said, he said that many times over his career. Of course, he was asked the question of any advice for budding filmmakers many times over his career, and Hitchcock as well. And both of them said, basically, you only get to have no idea what you're doing once. There's always more to learn, but you only get to have absolutely no fucking clue what you're doing once. And that's a good thing and a thing to be savoured, and it's part of the fun. You realise that the trying is the fun part. And also, if you don't know what the industry standards are, for instance, how much something ought to cost or how many pages of dialogue one can typically shoot in a day, it's easy to break rules and standards that you don't know exist. And many of those standards are only standards because they are standards, if you know what I mean. You know, it's clunky and you've got a huge crew, of course, people need time to set up and so on, just getting people in and out of cars, it eats into your time. But
when you start doing a catering budget, you're in trouble.
Well, seriously, some people do just come to set seemingly just to eat. I love to eat.
At 6, sure.
I love to eat.
But then the cost blows out largely in getting sandwiches for the sweet gaffer, who you actually did not eat very much today.
What I did what I did is I tried to write scenes in which I was eating so I could be doing both.
I did this in Melbourne on the Melbourne Eye. Our bad version. I got to do one spot. There was a late show, and I got to do one show for them. I got to do 1 2-camera piece about modern art and why I disliked it so much. And I thought I've always wanted to go on that. I did really dislike modern art, and it was the last week before that show was cancelled. And they said, "Fine, all right, you can have 5 minutes. Just write us a scene of you out and about in Melbourne talking about it." And I got to write. I begin on the Melbourne Eye. There was no reason for that, but then I did get to go on it before it was shut down. Because it's not exciting. It's a terrible... it's somewhere on YouTube, but it's not very good.
I'd love to see it. We were just talking about Brideshead.
Yeah.
And in 1946, when Evelyn Waugh wrote that, he wrote, Cordelia says, "Modern art is all bosh, isn't it, Charles?" And Charles goes, upgrade, bosh. And he said that in 1946.
Well,
And
it had begun then.
would argue that which was creeping in
Yeah.
in 1946.
Oh, it's when you go around and every art gallery in America is structured the same way. You walk in with the classics stuff, beautiful landscapes, a gorgeous woman who's been dead for 300 years, and then you turn a corner at some point to start coming back, and World War I happens, and then there's really, you get occasional okay things, but I like to go in backwards, so it's a happy story.
I find it really hard to believe that Francis Bacon was working when he was. That Francis Bacon had new paintings coming out,
Yeah.
for want of a better term, at the same time as music was, I think, at its best. You know,
It does take turns, which I find strange. You go through, I mean, British classical composers, you've got 3. I want to be generous.
go on.
You've got Holst.
Well, many of them aren't English.
Yeah, good. When your great English composer is Gustav Holst, that is a problem for the patriotic urge. But then popular music, Europe could not keep up at all. I talk about this I love the Eurovision Song Contest, not only the music, but the spectacle. And the fact that England chooses to be bad at it on purpose. You've got real pop stars that you could send. Everyone else is sending their best people.
Do you choose to be bad on purpose? I haven't watched it for a long time, but are you sure we're not just leaning into what's there?
I think if you wanted to win,
although that is, of course, a talent as well.
Elton John, Dua Lipa, Adele, you're a new supergroup. Out you go. I think you'll do very well at the Eurovision Song Contest. They refuse to do it. And they send some man they find in an alleyway.
Well, we famously, I don't know if we're really being competitive or not, we famously scored ABBA 0 with Waterloo in 1976.
I didn't know that.
But in 1976, ABBA were winning the Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo, and Francis Bacon had an exhibition. And I just find that, because
they're in the ether together.
I'm like you. I don't immediately associate modern art with good art.
Sure.
And I associate really great art with 15th century, 16th century. So I find it hard to come to terms with that someone as good as Francis Bacon could have been working so recently.
Well, it's also, I mean, ABBA was the only good song that year, I must also add. I mean, he's broken through in a mediocre.
The levels.
I think that year you sent an Australian, you sent Olivia Newton-John with, I think it's something like Live, Laugh, Love, and Everything's a Terrible number that year. If you can, it's all on YouTube. And then there'll be a lady in a dress coming out.
That's one of the greatest songs of all time.
Papa. Not the way not this turgid 70s version of that.
Olivia Newton-John.
It's her worst song. It's her Eurovision song, and then there's another one that's like it.
But she sang Papa. No,
sorry. It's in the style of Pa, and she comes on and does some warbling.
Well, you know,
we must love each other together.
I feel like I'm really there.
And then when ABBA comes out, it is like punk rock happening. Right there. It's totally, they're having fun with it. There's a Waterloo. There's a Napoleonic style hat on the conductor. This is back when they had. I don't just want to talk about that. We have limited time. I've got to move on from Eurovision.
I'm not in any rush.
Well,
I'm never.
You'll have things to do at some point.
If you've seen episode 5, or if you watched me editing episode 5, you would attest. I'm never in a rush to talk about ABBA. I adore ABBA.
You know, Australia is the most...
And I also am very tempted to get segued onto the topic of Lionel Bart and Oliver.
Yes.
Well, Lionel Bart didn't know how to write a single note of music. I mean, I know a lot of musicians don't have an academic understanding of music. I know Madonna doesn't, and a lot of other people don't. But that's a real composition. Yeah. And he'd go into the theatres, and the theatres would just get the musicians in, and he'd say, try, I don't know, some medley, as long as he needs me. And he'd say, I want an oboe here, and I want these instruments there, and they'd just do it until he went, right, that's it. And I find that, I know a lot of musicians don't have an academic
Sam, are you all right?
understanding of it. But I think, those songs, Oliver will live forever.
Well, of all the Beatles, the only one who could read sheet music was Yoko Ono. And I think that, I do love Yoko Ono, but I think that is telling.
I don't know enough about it. Whenever people ask me Beatles or Stones, I think neither of them is ABBA.
You're just ABBA.
No, I appreciate both of them, but I think neither of them is ABBA.
Australia is an old, like if the world went ABBA mad, then Australia was the asylum where the most insane people were kept. We went mad for ABBA.
I know. We have very
Everywhere.
curious taste, and as you've told me,
The production.
this show is going down well in Australia.
Everyone I show it, I've got about 6 big aficionados, and it's all Australian comedians who've told me about it. But I wonder how you're received in the British milieu, because I think, as far as I can tell, this is a keep
What do
your
you
head.
mean by that?
This is a keep your head down. That's exactly right. This is a keep your head down. What are you doing? You don't belong here type place. Now, the Americans, they have a very go ahead.
They don't
Go west, young man. Achieve, conquer, manifest destiny. Britain, hate you if you're clever, despise a fool. Stay in your little box. Don't do anything too outrageous. Is that an unfair characterization?
Well, cleverness is incredibly overrated.
I agree.
Or so I've been told. What's the question? How has it been? It seems here. It seems that, and in general, the people who like the show really like it.
Yeah.
And the people who don't like it really don't like it. And I'm happy about that, really.
Yes.
Someone asked me when we were on the brink of releasing it, they were a close friend, and I'd spoken to them about the whole thing, for years. And they said, will you be really, really disappointed if it comes out and, people just don't really watch it? Not many people watch it. And
Yeah.
I said, I thought about it. And they said, not really. I said, what would really be crushing for me is if it came out and any number of people, be that number 5 or 500 million, all watched it and thought, that was okay.
Yeah.
To me, I just wanted it to mean a lot to anyone, really, and that's what immediately happened. And actually, right up until the 6th episode, it meant, I suppose, it means a lot one way or another, because I had people watching we'd set it to go live on YouTube, so it had a little premiere.
Yeah.
You do.
We've done that.
You do the YouTube.
I've
And,
sat there on the YouTube watching
people watching you.
16 people are watching me right now. This was the feeling that I had.
And amazing when 10 of them are people who hate you and have already decided that they hate you. Well, I tried to remember, because of course I say that it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't 99% of the time, but that other 1% of the time I have to remind myself that those hateful people are always first in line. Those people,
It's true.
The people who hate you most, of course, they set an alarm to
Yeah.
hate you, and they're on the 6th episode. They've already endured 2.5
TikTok, it's
hours
8
of something
o'clock,
that they
yeah.
supposedly hate.
I mean, I loved that I did not feel the need to leave a comment. I just shared it with people. I didn't need to.
You've really shared it with people. And
we continue to share it here on
I-
the YouTube channel.
I cannot overstate my gratitude for that. On every episode, there are comments. James Donald Forbes McCann sent me here.
Wielding a sway of dozens of people
I owe
across
you.
the internet. It felt like someone had made a show specifically for me. I'd spent a lot of time trying to get shows made at different networks. I'd worked with the BBC equivalent in Australia. I've gone on about this on the phone previously. I mean, the number of meetings and pitches and people going, well, you've got to put your head in the ring. You've got to work with these people. They'll give you money. And it just never amounts to anything. Except
Never anything.
the worst
You've not
notes.
even heard a peep out of a would-be commissioner.
No, not in any serious sense.
Because Crookshank said the same thing, and I
Yeah.
was amazed by that, because he's got his pilots
Sweet Redfern
on
Electrical.
YouTube,
Yeah.
and there's literally, I think there's literally hundreds of comments literally saying, if this were on TV, I'd watch it. If
Yes.
this were a DVD,
And it did
I'd
tremendous
buy it,
numbers.
theoretically.
I mean,
And
it got really
it
the
did.
skate world really got behind him, and it got many, many thousands of views. And you would think, if you were working at the ABC and going, we need to make something, and we need people to watch it, let's go with this guy who's clearly already making it.
Well, it's trialed and
And the
tested
people are
at
watching.
no expense.
They
to
don't even give
yourself.
him a phone call. This is, but I think
Well, I think it's very important. I think there's something actually quite, perhaps it's disheartening for him, but on the other hand, it's perhaps affirming as well, because it just goes to show that decisions aren't being made based on quality or even necessarily popularity.
I couldn't say what they were being based on, other than people wanting to leave their jobs on time
Well,
and not do too much hard
it
thinking.
seems like many questions are being asked before, or perhaps even instead of, is this actually funny?
Well, and this is one of the nice things about money, is that if there was any money in these places and they felt
Like
the need
Benny
to,
and Bjorn now.
yeah, I don't. Chess the musical was the right thing to do after ABBA. You had to keep that train rolling.
Is that the song? I know him so
Oh, I thought for a second you were saying that you had met
No, not
Benny
Benny
Bjorn.
No,
That
I
would
don't
be
know them at all.
terrific.
No, I don't know him so well. I don't know him
The,
at all. No,
like-
there's that Elaine Page. I know him so well. It's a great song.
I only remember One Night in Bangkok.
I've never seen the musical. I only know that one song.
Oh, my mum's a big fan.
Yeah, it was on at the Coliseum. My mum went to see it and weirdly asked me if I wanted to go at a time in my life when we were not estranged, but certainly not seeing each other even. But maybe she knew, as I probably didn't at the time, that Benny and Bjorn had been involved and that I would have loved it. I'm sure I would have loved it.
Well, you'll have the chance to see them on their big reunion tour at ABBA Stadium. They're renaming the stadium. I just saw that.
What, they're actually doing the reunion now?
They're doing a big reunion tour.
Are they actually?
Am I letting you know this? I hope it's not already happened. Hold on. I've seen posters on the Tube
Really?
for the ABBA reunion tour.
I've not
and
seen
on the new
that.
album, there's one good song, I will say. It's got a great sax solo.
The new album,
The Voyager ABBA album.
Right.
Have you heard it?
Yeah.
I thought that one
I
with
thought
the...
there were a few good songs.
I don't know how it goes other than that. There's a very strange...
I'm not Shazam. I thought there were a few good songs. I'm amazed that I didn't know that. I'm ashamed of myself.
I think
I
they're
didn't know
coming.
that they were actually.
I want to give people more
regrouping.
context about you because the more I dig into the life, the stranger it becomes.
But
I know you want to talk about ABBA.
No,
All
I
right.
don't. But first, I want you to finish because I'm on the edge of my seat.
Oh,
about
please.
What the great thing about money is that you were about to tell me
just
before I
that
interrupted.
It motivates people to make an honest decision about popularity. So, if people can go, we need a hit show or all these people get fired, if it's important to actually do well, then I think people are more willing to take chances. People are more willing to actually determine if people will like something before it comes out, if it has any intrinsic quality. I think, like The Tonight Show 20 years ago, if you rated 1% better than your competitor on the other network, it was a huge windfall financially for everybody. And so everyone was trying to be good, and you'd hire good writers, and you'd really have a hunt for not, a commercial kind of greatness, but greatness nevertheless. Whereas now that nobody's watching and the big media houses are collapsing, it doesn't really matter how many people are watching. We're just going with the motions and trying not to make a fuss and trying not to get in trouble. Keep ahead. Let's get the right number
It's
of...
objectively true that the great media houses and networks are collapsing.
Yeah.
It seems like it to me, but
It's
what
remarkable.
do you think is the answer?
I mean, not this specific podcast that I'm doing, but the way in which... not this one right now, because I don't have a... I'm doing fine. I'm doing better and better, but...
You are.
It's
Congratulations.
great. All you
on
have
all
to
of
do
your
is make your family
continued
really suffer by
success.
moving them around the world several times.
Well,
And it really does pay
I
off.
was very glad to meet your family the other day.
I wanted
at
to bring...
the-
You
at
have
the
a...
Regency.
You're
and,
27?
27.
You're 27. You have 4 children.
Technically, yeah. Well, 2 of them are inherited.
2 inherited.
I mean, 2 of them are my stepdaughters.
Yes,
I
yeah.
didn't start having them. Elise is
Still a
Elise is
responsibility.
11, so
you
I
took
didn't
on a
have her
real
when I was-
responsibility as a father to these
I did.
children.
Yeah. Well, 300 odd days a year, I've got 4 children.
And how many? I mean, when did you get married? When did you inherit?
Well,
Said
I
children?
got married last November.
I apologize. When did you
10 days
begin
after
living in
episode
sin?
6
Yeah.
came out, so they would be able to get together with your family and really bond over this shared suffering, which must come with support.
Oh, boy.
But I've been, I've known them since, and I've been parenting them since Valletta was 2 and Elise was 6, so 5 years.
So you're 22 years old.
I was 22, yeah.
So there comes a certain point when we were discussing yesterday that we saw near where you went to school, and you drop out of school to pursue skateboarding, which at some point you just punishingly take on a huge amount of responsibility. I mean, these are all difficult. These are all things most people in their 20s. I don't know if you've been out there with the youth, but it's all ganja and video games.
We've brushed shoulders.
Yeah.
Me and the youth.
People say, this is a generation
It's
that
all
doesn't want to
ganja
grow
and
up.
video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Doritos and
Doritos.
Not
are they
voting.
they the new thing?
it's a hip. Well, there's Cool Ranch now. People love.
Well,
that.
I don't vote.
Well, you don't
now
have
that
to
we're being
vote in this
filmed.
country. I would, if I could get away from voting, I would do it.
Actually,
but they'd
I
find me.
probably most people would be advised to
You have so many
to
elections
not
vote.
say that they don't vote, but so
Yeah.
many people are so convinced that I vote one particular way that actually perhaps it's not so bad a thing for me to get that out. in
You're
the open.
accused of
The
Toryism.
only thing I've ever voted on
Yeah.
in my life is Brexit.
And you voted
For it all the way.
right there,
No,
brother.
I'm joking. I didn't. I was vehemently against it.
You were a Remainer?
Very much so. I
Interesting.
still, well, I
Yeah.
still am. It's over now. It's done.
I had no investment in it at the time.
I was a Remainer. Having said that,
Yeah.
once the votes were
thought
counted,
the
I
carry-on was a bit
wasn't.
much.
I wasn't of the opinion that we should have another vote until we
Yeah.
get it right.
I think many people...
I'm
thought
yet
that
to
they can.
really see any benefit whatsoever to it. But this isn't that kind of podcast.
It could be. They sold a lot of
I don't
hope.
know enough.
I've been going back. I did it was a great time. I drove a boat across America recently with a Fox News a man who presents on Fox News. It was an interesting time. He was a fan. He bought me a small boat. I had to get to Washington, and then we drove it back together.
Small boats.
Small boat.
Why are you getting back onto these
I love the
topics?
boat. We're trying to get the... Now, hold on. I must figure out what I... Oh, he played me a great speech at the Oxford Union by a man who quoted this Tennyson poem about, though we are... I said it the other day. I can't get it out of my head. This, though we are not now... That strength which in old days, I'm butchering this, that which we are, we are. And it was this whole, Britain is, we'll be independent, we'll make our own choices, we'll forge ahead. So much potential now that you're unshackled from the European Union, yet to see it used in any particular way. You know?
Well, I didn't love the European Union. I
Sure.
didn't know enough about it to love it. I'm not one of these people, and I suppose this is maybe why I as I just freely admitted to, don't vote.
Yeah.
I suppose that's maybe my privilege. I can't bring myself to convince myself that I really actually genuinely like or believe in someone who in reality I just dislike slightly less.
Yes.
But
This is a bit I'm doing at the moment. I count back through the prime ministers to see if anyone likes any of them. And at least up to Thatcher, everybody boos. And I get to go, well, you're the problem.
Well,
If you have one bad ex-girlfriend,
maybe
that's
I'm
bad. If you have 15 crazy ex-girlfriends, that person is always
the
the
common
issue.
denominator.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I think I like the analogy. It might be something of a
See if it works. It has to be ready for the
generalisation.
O2.
But, well, I don't know. I couldn't get excited about anyone really. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I long for someone with the comic timing
I
and the
see where we're
showmanship of Boris Johnson
Oh, okay.
without the
Actually having to have Boris
kind of
Johnson's
morally bankrupt
administrative capacity.
kind of that kind of characteristic.
when he's
Not
getting
necessarily.
up,
He
when
just
he's doing the Odyssey from heart, when he's doing the Iliad off the top of his head in the original ancient Greek, you go, that's a guy I want.
I liked, in a way, I like the idea theoretically of having a prime minister who has a best bits compilation on YouTube. It's just, why can't we have one who also has some kind of
I don't know.
some sense of responsibility, some morals, some values? He's completely devoid
Yeah.
of what would typically be considered, an average morality.
Whenever the children's section on Wikipedia says at least before the number, it's a problem. But I believe he goes, at some point he goes, stop digging.
And
Elon Musk is
and
the
now
same.
we will. And now, do you chapter your YouTube videos?
No, but we
This
might
will be
think
the
about
Elon
doing
Musk
that in the
chapter.
future.
Well, we're going, off on so many tangents here. Perhaps you ought
For children, your own fashion line, your own show, the modelling, skateboarding career. This is a lot to take on and navigate.
I'm not leaving.
No?
I'm just seeing if that tea we ordered. I have a feeling that they've been, very polite and not wanting to interrupt.
Oh,
No, it's fine.
you could come in. Thank you. I want to...
Here's our audience of.
Thank you. Oh, what a great mug.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Just giving us a chance to cool down. So 4 children.
So here's a question. When do you... And Sam, you don't like this camera at all.
No. That's where you see. It's cool.
Do you want me to shuffle forward?
No.
You want me to shuffle back?
The worst thing you could. Nah, it's fine. It's just I'm just getting the over the shoulder kind of thing. That's like really what I saw in my mind.
You see over the shoulder?
Over shoulder, one like that. We're getting a great U, but it's like, it's not about you,
Yeah.
I had a dream last night, and it was all over your shoulder.
This is how we've formed a good working relationship. Is
How long have you two known each other?
coming up on 4 years. Yeah. But I am visually the
presidency.
least well-equipped person. Yeah,
A premiership.
I'm running for a second term. 4 more years, that's what I say. And then it will be absolutely impermissible to run again. I can't do the visual. I can't dress myself. I can't. I know nothing about painting. I can do the audio side of it. Love it, but I would much rather have my eyes removed than the ears.
Really?
Whereas Sam can do everything, but really cannot express. I can't express what I want comedically, and I just say it needs to be this way, or I can't do it.
Really?
And the same with the it's on the over-the-shoulder shot type setup, and it's a beautiful working relationship, and it works well.
That's brilliant. So you're not a control freak.
I literally flew him here to do this interview, so he should do it the way he wants to do it.
Well, let's give you a good one.
Although, I mean, Sam, can we talk about it now, briefly? He missed his first flight.
Right.
He got a call. Do you want to say it?
Yeah, I got a call. I was at a really, really nice dinner with my wife, and like before I go away, because we're never separate. We're like always together, and so it's this big thing. Me coming to London, go to a really nice romantic dinner, and just as we're waiting for the taxi to go home, I get this phone call from the Qatar Airways. They're like, "How far away are you from the airport?" And I was like, I thought that it might have been like a survey or something, like they're seeing like how far away their customers live from
The
that.
sound's bothering you.
Yeah, and I was like, like 25 kilometers, I think. That was just an approximation. And then it dawned on me, they're asking me this because they want me to come to the airport. And I said, no, my flight's tomorrow. And she's like, no, your flight's like now, in half an hour. So I then cancelled that flight and rebooked, paid for another flight.
Were you charged for that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, the pressure for this to be an interview worth...
We'll find a way to compensate you.
Filming.
Do you love to suffer?
Happy
Do you
you're
get
here.
bored when you're not broken under the back of things that would make other people go mad? What drives you to do the extra thing? I think this is, for me, when I don't have a big project I have to do, I become very anxious and upset. And I found at some point I just had to keep doing them. But I wonder how that...
I'm very anxious either way.
Okay.
To be honest.
So better to have an object to be anxious.
I'm very anxious right now,
Oh,
to
really?
be honest.
Oh, we'll get a couple of beers in here. Oh, you don't now you really don't drink? You really are a
No,
teetotaler?
I really don't drink.
And you really... So, I mean, there's a very moving scene in the show where you go and have a pint. This is a stunt pint?
It was a stunt pint. That was one of the... I don't consider myself an actor, nor do I really want to be. So, really, everything else in the show is real.
Except for
but
the
I had to draw the line.
I think you should consider acting if you get the time. I think you have a gift for it.
I loved doing that, and I love filmmaking. But I don't know if I want to be in the industry exactly. I'm not sure. If someone came to me with a story that was, it's not that it has to be mine. It's just that it has to be something I really like.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit like you, Sam. I'm never separated from my wife, but I certainly don't want to go to Budapest for 3 months and sit around. There's so much sitting around.
Your own, like, because I'm an electrics.
He's saying that he's a spark,
Like,
and now he's saying doing a long form in your own city. I'm just thinking, because you're not on microphone, yeah.
I just came off of a 4-month.
He was on a 4-month TV job.
And 14-hour days.
There were 14-hour days. Disgraceful.
There's nothing you can do.
This is the other reason I dragged the family over here. I didn't want to be here for a week without them. I get very depressed, and then I sit alone in a hotel room, and I stare at a window, and I get...
I think you're perhaps maybe a rare type of show person then in that respect, because it seems like it seems like one has to be quite selfish to I don't know, to do it. Not necessarily to be an actor, but you have to, of course, at least first think that you're worth looking at.
Sure.
And it seems you excel if you're all right with either being away from people you love or not having people you love.
Well, I mean, the comedians, they get on the drink and they get onto the ladies. And because I try not to do that I don't get on to the ladies at all. I try and moderate the drink and drugs.
You've really cut back.
What did you? Yeah, it's not since this morning.
You used to be serving up, anything with a pulse, but now you've really cut back.
I'm doing the best I can. We're hanging in there.
Well,
it's very important.
You know,
to have
doing the
family.
best you can, whatever that may be.
Sure.
You know, if you get to go to bed saying I did my best, then whatever happens, happens.
It's when you get up in the morning that you have to really take stock of what is
Getting up in the
transpiring.
morning is another.
You said before you
story
get into the bed, that's fine. No, I
Mm.
love traveling
You can
with
also,
everybody.
You can also completely swerve that getting up in the morning part by just staying awake your entire life, which also does
I can't-
wonders for
no,
the anxiety.
I'm so weak on that. I hear about Thatcher sleeping 4 hours a night and getting everything done. Of course, getting dementia at some point. Who can say if that's
interested
connected?
in Thatcher, aren't you?
Really interested by Thatcher. Yeah.
We are doing
There is a.
political podcast
I'm
after
sorry,
all.
and you don't have to. There is a
I'd
sexual
like to,
energy to Thatcher that I find very magnetic.
She was a fascinating woman.
Yeah.
She was a fascinating.
And they're out
fascinating
there,
woman.
these women who you go, I don't mind you having all the. You can do anything you like. You can destroy the north of this country if you do please.
Steve Coogan just did a series on Brian Walden and Margaret Thatcher, who did they did together an iconic, extensive interview, the likes of which don't really exist anymore.
Sure.
And he is a devout, lifelong Labour supporter. And I saw in some of the press that he was doing for this. I've not actually watched the show yet. I'd like to. I couldn't seem to find it. Maybe I'm just being really thick. Maybe it wasn't actually up yet. I was surprised that he was on the brink of paying her compliments, really.
Yeah.
I suppose, what he did say was at least you kind of knew where you were with her. She kind of told you what she was about, and she was about something, and that is,
It's a bit of a
whatever that thing may be, that barely exists anymore. That's what he was saying.
This is, I think, the great folly of liberalism in the classical sense is that, you set people completely free and everyone's lost, and what you really want, at least, is a commemorative plate with a beautiful king on it. Just to have in the corner and to go, he cares. It's really...
And now, onto the monarchy.
Well, we can do the monarchy because in America, people have said this before, they don't have a monarchy, and so they make a monarchy out of their, Kim Kardashian fills a sort of queen-like role. And over again, you need spiritually something to cling on to as a people. And you've got the monarchy. Now, you'll need to hold that microphone moving forwards.
I'm gonna go get another cigar.
Okay.
So enjoying sitting here smoking with you.
Do what you got to do.
Sorry to keep pausing.
Perhaps we can have a quick look around this beautiful office, Gilead. I mean to ask, what do I mean to ask about? The fireplace? I want to ask about the fireplace. The ring goes off this finger. It's mostly the fireplace. I'm intrigued by the fireplace. Now's a good time to say it. The Blondie Way. It's out on YouTube. Check it out. Why not leave one of those beautiful comments you've been leaving saying I sent you, but you don't have to. There's a piano behind Sam. I don't know if that's in any of the shots. A beautiful stained glass window. I felt a bit embarrassed last time I met Blondie. He took me to a greasy spoon and I hadn't slept in some time. We walked around Westminster Abbey.
So, Thatcher and abortions.
Oh, let's do abortion. Absolutely. I mean, not practicing them. I got to ask about the fireplace in the show. It's one of I have taken my children to auction houses before and had difficult moments with older people. I just thought it would be a fun thing to go and do on a
Could you tell
Saturday
that
afternoon.
I actually haven't been to an auction house
No.
before, and that I don't think the way that we did it in the show is how an auction operates.
It's much more boring, and you got to sit through a lot of bad stuff. But I mean, is that an antique fireplace? And did you set fire to the fireplace? Not an antique fireplace.
Our executive producer Kate Madigan, her husband Giles Thompson made it for us. He's a prop master.
Yeah.
Master of the prop, and he made both of them. There's two
of them. So the original does exist.
Well,
still.
that's really good to know. A, that you had to ask whether it was a real antique, and B, that you also didn't even clock that there was two fireplaces.
Well, no, I had assumed that had actually been. I mean, when I first watched it, I didn't know who'd commissioned it. I didn't know if you'd made it yourself, and I thought, oh, he's this is him writing the fireplace that he's paid all that money for into the show. It's meta.
No, this is one instance in which it wasn't meta.
Okay.
But you could be forgiven, applauded even for thinking that. It's actually built out. It's stained plywood and builder's foam.
Did a remarkable job.
They did a remarkable job, didn't they?
And the setting, and then there's a fake fire.
£69,000 and a penny, or whatever
Yeah.
it was. Did it look that good? I mean, you'd have
What
to
did
be
you
in
think,
a
Sam? Did you
particularly
think that
good
was-
mood to spend that.
Again, I visually have no. I was able to be an art auctioneer for a time because I could really say I don't know if any of this is good, so I won't feel bad selling it for too much money to people who also don't know. If I really knew and I thought this is no good, someone shouldn't be paying $1,200 for that, I would have been morally complicit. But I can honestly say, and I told all the artists, I don't know. I like that one with the dog. It's about as far as I could go. The art auction? You came and filmed the art auction. That was...
Was that a comedy thing or a genuine
Well,
job?
it was a comedy thing, but it went well enough that we did a second one at a real art gallery. We did the first one at a lovely art gallery that happened to be owned by people who ran a comedy room. And I knew one person who knew a local painter, and then they just put the word out about, things that you can't sell. James is going to try and sell them, and he's going to use that money to buy a boat. That's the overarching, $500,000. We've saved none. We're spending a lot of money on going to London at the moment. And staying in an Airbnb that looked beautiful, but none of the furnishings. Door handles are falling off, ceilings are flooding. Great times.
I'd like to clarify that. Well, I'm very happy to have you here. I didn't force you.
No, I'm happy to
come
bear.
here. And I really hope this won't be the case. You're on your way to Heathrow, going, that was a complete waste of time.
Not at all.
I'd like to clarify to your viewers that it wasn't. I didn't insist.
I volunteered this,
You've
and I
volunteered.
want when
You've
people
taken a
say
risk.
that Blondie, I'll be a footnote on the Wikipedia page saying brought to international prominence. That's what I want people to have. It hurts me when I do see something great, and I spent all of my youth going to comedy clubs and watching people I thought were terrible with big audiences and people who I thought were great having tiny audiences, and it always felt to me unfair that happened.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm really genuinely the same. I wish that in a way, I kind of wish that I felt it more often. I wish that there were more struggling artists that I'm aware of, because I like to root for someone.
Yes.
But no, I'm the same. I think it's completely. There's a line in the show where I'm trying to think of what could I say to Janine that would really put her off me to such a degree that she would bow out of the job.
Yeah.
And I could say that I absolutely loved Fleabag, and that's I've not really got anything against her.
Sure.
But the reason for that is I don't think it's right that she should have the stardom that she does, whilst Julia Davis
Sure.
is relatively unknown. My wife saw Julia Davis the other day. She picked our kid up, one of our kids up from school, and she saw her and she said, I have to tell you, you are a remarkable woman, comedy writer, actress. You're incredible. You've brought so much joy to my husband and I, and me and my husband, and Julia Davis. Jen told me she kind of almost went into like shock, like that doesn't happen for her every day. Like even being recognised was a big deal. I met Ruth Jones at the Jubilee and told her a similar thing. I didn't actually say everything that James Corden has, you should have, but it was implied.
He's a big one.
And she also
Literally,
was,
figuratively. I mean, it does seem at some
also
point
was
you go,
shocked at being complimented.
why must
And I think it's
America
incredibly
be
unfair.
subject to watching James Corden in the evenings? This seems unkind. To
Someone said our loss is also America's
Stuart
loss.
Lee.
Is it Stuart Lee? That's right. That's right.
Yeah, England's loss is America's loss also.
Sometimes
Sometimes it comes together in people who I think Stuart Lee has had great success and has done what he wants to do, and I go, there's a strange moment where there's a coming together. I actually...
Maybe I am a bit more of a hater than I think, because I can think of... There are a couple of other examples of put-downs in the show, and one of them is in episode 2. We're doing Would You Rather This or relocate to deepest, darkest Peru and only come back to Western civilization once a year, every year, to spend Christmas with American singer-songwriter John Legend
Yeah.
plus fam. In the original script, that was James Corden. But then in the time that elapsed between writing the script and filming it, everyone else in the world, well,
Cottoned on.
many other people in the world seem to realise that James Corden, well, it ultimately, by the time we actually came to filming it, it felt bandwagony,
Sure.
which I never want to be. And
No, the word
so I
somehow
swapped his
got
name
out.
out. But now we know that it was that I disliked James
The
Corden as
word
well.
got out. I just, at some point, I started hearing people quietly say, he's very rude to the staff. You know,
Well-
they would just mutter that quietly, and then...
I mean, unless you're there, you don't know. But it seems like a lot of people have said that.
Well, I mean, Britain has like a two-tiered... The first time I was here, I watched your Deal or No Deal, and that was when I realised that there was a strange indigenous culture to this island that did not travel. That, you know, the world doesn't get to see what's going. Sometimes it dribbles out with that Essex show or Love Island, and you see just a little glimpse of what that might be like to actually live here and brush up against that. It's just like dumb stuff. It's weird what doesn't in America. It's college football. We never hear about college football. I don't understand until I went there what the passion. You know, when they talk about Waco in America, they usually are talking about college football, not the shooting. And I don't know what the Australian equivalent would be of something that we just keep in house. The Hilltop Hoods. I would like to share that.
I don't know.
How could you know from the inside?
There's the exterior representative culture, and then being here that like people go. The police are always there locking people up for leaving comments on the internet. And since I've been here, I've not seen one person arrested for a comment on the internet. And there have been some comments where I've wanted people arrested.
I too must admit I've never witnessed that.
No
with
one
my
seems
own-
to express
with my
fear
own
about
two
it.
eyes.
And then other times, and don't you respond to this might be difficult in this country, there really are a lot of beautiful mosques. That's no joke. Where the Heathrow to, where are we staying? Camden Town, 7 huge minarets. I thought, that's beautiful. No one's talking about that.
Why shouldn't I respond to that?
I don't know. I mentioned it on stage, and everybody really does freeze up. Same with all of my Peckham observations. I did get to go and see a convenience store that I'm told has gone
Don't get
viral.
me started on Peckham mosques.
We don't have to... I think more of them would be a good idea. I think that they'd give some structure and meaning. It was a convenience store where the balaclavas are sold next to the knives. And that is
I
also
saw
where
that
found
on
out.
your story.
That was
How
late in the
convenient.
day. Too convenient. I think you should have to make 2 stops. It is a narrow place. I am...
London.
Yeah. I don't mean that intellectually or morally, but everything is really jammed up. I'm overwhelmed by it. I mean, I've been in America for the last year where they have just rolling planes, and you just get on a highway and you drive for 600
It's one of
miles.
the things that I really
strip
love
malls
about
everywhere.
it. It's one of the things that I really love about it. I don't actually have to. I'm very lucky. I don't have to. I'm not against travel, but I spent most of my adolescence traveling, and at this time in my life, I don't need to go away to appreciate home.
Yes.
And I realized, and I think I remember the first time I went to New York, of course, I was completely in awe of much of it and taken aback, but I really had a problem with perhaps it's the
grid system. We
efficiency of
discussed
the grid
this. You
system.
hate the
You
grid
can look
system.
all the way down, you know where you're going,
Yeah.
and it just felt to me like some kind of video game,
Sure.
which, as you said earlier, belongs to a generation that I've never been a part of.
Of, but not
And-
in. In, but not
And
of?
In, but
not
in,
of.
but not of.
Yeah.
And conversely, London is completely... I mean, it's a patchwork of architectural styles, and even the pavement, it changes from cobblestones
Yeah.
to a different pavement to a different kind of pavement, different formats of cement even. And I it's one of the things that I really, really value about this city, whatever else is happening architecturally.
Well, this is then
There's
presumably
so
why
much
people hate
character.
a place. People hate a place called Milton Keynes, where I've never been to, but I've heard about 8 references to Milton Keynes and how awful it is. And my understanding is this is a planned post-war exurb of
I
London.
didn't know that.
This is, I think, I did a little Wikipedia because I thought I heard it too many times. Milton Keynes is a go-to punchline, and audiences exploding with joy and laughter. That there's something to the English soul that's very hateful about Milton Keynes. Even people from there have gone.
I think there's something in the English soul that's very hateful about. I mean, maybe that's the end of the sentence. There's something in the English soul that's very hateful.
Well, I do. I mean, when people say this is America, they mean freedom. And when they made a film called This Is England, they did mean skinheads kicking people. And home of the, you got to be brave to be that free.
The land of the free. And yet, when I went there, I spent about 200 quid on tea and bagels for my kids.
You can't.
The land of the very expensive.
This is America?
At least New York.
I mean, you can't get a kettle. They just microwave the water. It's you can now buy one for the stovetop, like a plug-in kettle. Can't do it. No, they just don't do it. They don't have any cause for a plug-in. They don't have anything. They don't do hot water bottles, and they don't do cups of tea. These are the big two for kettles. Yeah, kettlebells. More kettlebells than kettles.
They drink coffee, don't they?
Love coffee, yeah. And also, they're very happy to have...
Coffee. Do you love coffee?
I require coffee.
Did you love coffee before moving
Before America? With the children, I had come to depend on it.
Really?
And I'd managed to get off of nicotine. I was very proud of that before getting to America. And then immediately I found these...
I'm sorry, I'm sitting here chain smoking.
I'm literally...
cigars.
4 milligrams are pumping into my skull right now because I got those things that go in your top lip. And I think nicotine is important for getting things done. I think, this empire was built on nicotine. And tea. The caffeine.
The second best marker.
You have to say that into the microphone.
Tea, the second biggest margin in the world.
Cocaine number 1?
No. Well, maybe. It wasn't on the survey.
It'd have to be pasta.
No? Popcorn.
I believe it.
Because it's so extortionately jacked up for the cinema.
And they've really got you there.
But also, and this is my... as a business person, I can appreciate this. Logistically, you ship it, it's so light.
It's so big.
The shipping's not eating into your margin. You're eating into your popcorn.
It's mostly air. I have to ask you about having a fashion house before I forget, because this is one of my upcoming plans. Is to the episode on this. No, this is I look at there are things called tree maps where you can look at the exports of a country. And if you look at most developed countries, you can Britain. You sell aeroplane parts. You sell drugs for medicinal purposes. You're part of a beautiful economic system that has so many a real diversified economy. It's the same with America. It's the same with Ireland. It's the same with France. You look at Australia. We look like a third world country. We move rocks in the ground. That's what we do, and then we have almost nothing else that the world wants other than our minerals. And I thought it would be good to get Australian manufacturing going by doing something, having some product, some sort of, and now that I've got an American audience more than an Australian one, if I can make like a cool jumper or socks or something and have them made in Australia and sent from there, then perhaps we can get toward being a real country rather than just doing nothing and mining and redistributing that wealth through a series of taxes and welfare arrangements.
That's a great attitude.
This is my... So I'm meeting with
the opinion that every little helps. Every individual has a responsibility. I like that very much.
Well, we must be burdened by something. I really, life is a big cross to nail yourself to. And then you are lucky enough to die and have a nice big rest eventually. This is how I try and think about it. So how did you go from thinking... If you have no time at some point, because we've been going for some time already, and I meant to get to this
I'm in no rush. You've come all the way over here. Both of you. You've actually booked 2 flights over here and paid for them.
So I brought my mum.
Well, you've booked 6. I was talking to Sam.
Oh, sorry, you did book 2.
I couldn't even if I really had to end this early. I couldn't possibly after all we've discussed.
I would allow it.
No, I've got all the time in the world.
You decide to...
I've got all the time in the world within reason.
Skateboards are the first thing, or what's the first thing that you bring out in the Thames label? This gymnast,
Beth Tweddle.
This is on a shirt?
That's the if you want to go back as far as that.
Yes.
That's the very first Thames product or artwork was Beth Tweddle. I didn't necessarily have an interest in clothes when I was a 13, 14-year-old boy, but
It would
I
be
was
rare to do
completely-
so.
Well, I was completely obsessed with skateboarding,
Yeah.
and skateboarding introduced me to the kind of, well, so much really. It introduced me to art, essentially, that was really graphics. If I'd
Yeah.
known that was really the word at the time, it was art which better suited stickers, t-shirts, skateboards than walls. And I was a kid, as I think almost all kids are. I was a kid who drew and made art, but some
That would have been a
stopped.
great sentence if you'd said.
I was
Like almost all children, I was a child.
I was a child once, and it's true, impossible but true. No, I think all children make art. They should, and some of them stop, and some of them don't. And I was in that latter category. I, became obsessed by skateboarding, and so the kind of art which I was inspired by was, I went from drawing cartoons and toys to, I suppose, designing skateboards and clothes.
Yes.
And so I did art at school. At that point in school, you have to do it, but I liked doing it. And my GCSE project, which is when you're 16, I don't know what the school system's like in Australia, was this company essentially. I think that a teacher told me these are all, you're clearly really enjoying making art and you're making a lot of art, but there's not a great sense of congruence,
Sure.
which would be evaluated in an exam. So I think that may have been what kind of sparked me putting a name and essentially a logo
Yes.
on these artworks, which were otherwise quite disparate in theme. And in doing so, I inadvertently was making a brand, because not only was I making artworks inspired by artworks which were on clothes and stickers, I was also making the stickers and selling them and giving them away. So I really launched the brand when I was a child, really, and then I
But
did
now
it
I think
with-
many people must get to that point. I was having my hair cut in an Hispanic barber shop recently, and there was a man designing his logo for his clothing brand. There was also a monkey. They had a monkey in pajamas. It was an interesting place. But I got the sense that that's maybe where it would end for him, and that next step of going and finding a guy who makes spools of thread and a lady who's sewing and something that comes in a box to an address at a certain time and someone to then sell that to. This is a logistical step that practically nobody takes.
Well, perhaps coming back to what Orson Welles and Hitchcock said so often about filmmaking, when you don't know that
Yeah.
you're doing something, it's easier to do it. Perhaps that's applicable in other areas.
So what did you
of
do?
life.
Who did you then... What was that next step? How did you go, we're actually making this happen, I'm making a phone call now?
Well, as I say, I didn't really realise that I was doing it. I wasn't
Yeah.
consciously starting a brand. I was making art which was inspired by clothes, and then making clothes out
Yeah.
of that art and selling them. And
So who's
it
the
was,
first person you sold something? Do you remember the first?
Supreme New York in London, and Slam City Skates, which
Okay.
used to be in Covent Garden.
So you're doing brand to brand. You're working with a big brand as a collaboratory
well, it's,
project?
the first people I sold to would have been people,
Yeah.
but those were the first shops to stock
Right.
it. And that I remember then it kind of starting to dawn on me that I was doing a company.
Yeah.
And especially Slam City Skates, that meant a great deal to me, because that was a real home to me when I was when I was not going to school and going skateboarding, but it was raining, I was sat in that shop. So to have my stock, which is,
Yes.
as I say, not what I thought of it as at that time, in there, meant a great deal to me. And then I had business partners, and then I got out of that, and I just restarted it independently at the end of 2019. So
Hell
we've
of
been doing
a
it
time
this
to
way,
start.
this third iteration of it, for 5 years.
So you break
It
out of
was a
your
hell
own
of a
and you
time
say,
to
I'm
do
doing it my way, and then immediately a huge global collapse, supply lines all stop.
Exactly. We launched in unison with disaster.
Great.
And
It's only up
I mean,
from there.
Well,
can weather that.
it was an exciting time. I also became a father at that time, and
Ditto. That was
and there was and I left the skateboard company which I represented. That was kind of, though I didn't think of it as that at the time, and it wasn't. It was only a part of it. That was, in a way, the first step to doing it on my own, because they were also my business partners. It was a huge change for me, becoming a father, leaving that skateboard company which I'd represented since I was a kid.
Yes.
Like really very young, and since the brand was very young as well. This is Palace Skateboards. We grew up together in many ways. My teenage years, my formative years, were Palace's formative years, and it was a huge part of my life, and all of my friends were, and I still am friends with them. But of course, when you see a lot of people without even trying to, when you're going on trips all the time. It's a bit like when you finish school, though I didn't know actually that particular analogy.
When one finishes school.
I'm going off what other people have told me. The people who were your best friends, when you're not walking around on that same bit of carpet together, you see them a lot less. So that's a huge social change. So I had that. I had becoming a father.
Yes.
I had launching this company, and
then the
all
company
at a
has to
time
go well,
when the whole
you have mouths
world
to feed
was
now.
really
it's not a frivolous,
on pause.
exciting. Well, it can be exciting, but there's like, I remember when we came to America, and we had I got fired on the way over to America from a job that I was going to take over, and then we had no money and 3 months rent and a 8-month-old. And it's like, I remember doing gigs, in my early 20s and going, we'll go and have a bit of fun, play with the audience, we'll experiment. And then suddenly going, if this doesn't work, we're in trouble. Like I had better.
In a way, that pressure is.
I think for me,
normally,
necessary.
it's normally with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
That one sees it this way, but it's if not necessary, it's very valuable. It's necessity is the mother of invention.
Very much so. Faffing had to come to an end. There could be no
more fuckaboutery.
No, I'm enjoying saying all the words in Britain that people don't understand.
No more muckabout.
Cheeky's a big one.
Cheeky.
They don't have cheeky.
Cheeky.
They don't have even an approximate word for cheeky. Insubordinate doesn't really have the same poetic quality as cheeky. What else have I been? Punch a
British
fag,
people
I've been
might
saying
start
that.
saying insubordinate again now after Severance.
I'm yet to see Severance, and it's been recommended to me by everybody.
Really, very good.
We shouldn't take up to look at that. We're entering into how long have we done? We've done over an hour. We've done over an hour. You have things to do. You're a busy man.
You keep saying this.
I see it. I see
if
the
you want to
evidence
end
of
the
it.
interview, you can just say.
No. Well, there are more things that I would. What do you think? What should we hit? What's it? No, I wanted to the sock brand. It would only be right if I spoke about my idea for socks.
Right. Cheeky socks.
Cheeky socks is not bad. I think socks
Cheeky
are important.
sockies
It
and
seems like
bockies.
it seems like an easy one to start with. T-shirts feel.
It's not.
Every comedian has a T-shirt. It's not.
Very high minimums.
Okay. What would you, as a good product to go? We have one product. We're starting on one thing. What would you say would be the least?
I mean,
bother?
it might actually be one if you're really going to focus on that for a business, a business which does much else like mine. Having to make 300 of a pair of socks, which I mean, the margins are okay, but I don't know.
What is the best?
If you're going to focus,
what is
I mean,
the
there's
popcorn of the fashion
socks.
world?
What is the popcorn of
The
the
popcorn
fashion
of
world?
the fashion world.
Accessories.
Okay, interesting.
It's becoming more expensive, like everything else, but all fashion brands survive on bags, sunglasses.
This is news to me.
One size fits all, easily packable, unisex accessories.
A unisex sunglass.
One single sunglass.
We're going to. No one has done monocle sunglasses before, as far as I know.
They have done them before.
Have they?
They've not done them now. Actually,
it's time. There's a hole in the market. An eye-shaped hole.
A circular-shaped hole.
Yeah, 2 monocles. Visually very appealing.
So I think socks and monocles, perhaps sold as a monocle sold as a deal, 2 monocles for 10% off, or perhaps 2 monocles and a sock, or 2 pairs.
A bigger
pairs is your niche.
Oh, singles. We sell 1 sock at a time.
1 sock and 1
That's
monocle.
how we get multi purchases. You buy 1 sock, and then if you like it a lot, you can buy the other to go with it. I'm at sea in this field, but we've got enough projects going on that I think it would be wrong not to get into apparel, because this is what every comedian does it. And I see everyone's t-shirt.
Do you have
and I'm bored by
merch?
t-shirts. I do. I did a short run of t-shirts to raise money to pay for a board game because I thought that was more interesting. So we're working on the board game. That's coming
Board
out.
game is another big project. I mean, I at one time was designing a chess board,
Yeah.
and then I suppose it's my nature to want to really go into the details of everything. And then when I realised I'd have to design every individual piece to do it in a way that I was happy with, and
Yes.
and even if you're doing it, even if they're injection mould and
Sure.
not carved
Single man in a
with
cottage.
your own lily white
Yeah.
hand,
Whittling away.
even then, bit of a faff.
We've largely got down to cards and a small box, and there's a man I know in... Have I told you about this? Are you up to date on the board game?
Is this patented?
It will be patented, yes.
Is it safe to?
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. I mean, I haven't played it yet, so I can't divulge any secrets about the
Right.
way it works. But
But do you know how it ends?
I don't even know the middle or the beginning.
See, I hope the Severance writers know how it ends.
It's devastating when they don't. And this is with every...
Apparently they do.
With every creative project I do, with every script I write, I really try and start with the ending and work backwards, because there is nothing worse than a film that is great until the last 10 minutes, and then you go,
We just did exactly that with the short thing. I don't want to say film, but the
Okay.
thing that I sent you, where
yeah,
we delivered that car. I mean, that was of course the impetus to making the thing. We were delivering the car
yeah.
as a
You have the
competition
punch out
prize.
at the end, delivering a car.
Anyway, that was the reason, if there was any reason to do that. But
Is it hard to get all the gold paint off afterwards?
I was scrubbing my
Yeah.
face in the sink of the bathroom on the train on the way
12
back
carat
from
Pagliacci.
Western Supermare, and two people walked past me. The door was actually broken and just staying open,
Yeah.
and two people walked past me in the hallway of the train carriage and recognized me. Two people individually
Separate people.
saw me in that very specific situation, scrubbing gold paint off my face. They said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm always here."
Yeah, that's what.
What are you doing here? But just coming back to that, that was giving the person the car was of course the impetus for the whole thing. But actually, the only thing that I really thought immediately would be funny is if a cheesemonger or someone was in the boot of the car when we delivered it, and then we kind of worked
You can work backwards
from there.
Well, we will send. Now I have a script, and you don't have to do it. But I've not come here to do it. But it would be remiss not to bring it up. When we make a movie in Australia, at some point I have to pay for it myself, because I don't want anyone else to have
I
involvement.
can relate.
Yeah, it's going to be better this way. Anyway, I'll send you the script. If you ever can come on a 2-week holiday to Australia, you're welcome to bring the family. We'll wrap it then. But you read it. If you don't like it, you let me know.
I'd love to read it.
All right,
To read it. And I would love to visit Australia, and I just wait. I know that I will at some point soon, and
it's so much like
all I need
yeah.
is a reason beyond wanting to see it. So
Let's do our very best to make that reason happen. It's so much like, I mean, we were talking about walking around here and feeling very much at home. In America, I walk around America and I'm constantly, my brain is heaving with like, why is that like that? Why is there rubble in the corner? Who's that man over there? What is he saying? Here, it just feels like Melbourne or Sydney, and it's very strange to come all the way across the world and be at home.
someone asked me once if I'd like to come to Australia,
Yeah.
and I responded publicly, why would I travel as far as I possibly can without coming back on myself to arrive at the most culturally similar environment? And a lot of people had a problem with me saying that, and funnily enough now that's the very reason why I would like to come.
The Chesterton thing about going all that way and coming home again. The world turning over and coming upright. One example that I'm obsessed with, Dame Edna. You understand as a country what Dame Edna is about. You know, Barry Humphries did very well here. In America, I've seen them watch Dame Edna clips. Blank indifference, totally, sometimes anger. Who is this man? Why is he dressed as a lady? Why is he being mean to this woman in the front row? Her dress isn't that ugly or cheap. And there's nothing about it that they can really... Jimmy Carr, some Americans are so angry at Jimmy Carr.
I don't really know any English people who like Jimmy Carr.
Someone
of
out
course
there
they
has
do
to
because
like
he's
Jimmy
massively
Carr.
successful, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who likes him.
I think I met
don't.
someone. I think I did meet one person yesterday. I said, "That's interesting. Tell me all about it." It was at the
I
club.
would be fascinated to. I'd love to meet them.
That said, we'd love to have Jimmy Carr on the show. I don't know in what capacity. Just feels like that could help.
You don't mean that.
Jimmy Carr assisting you? Wouldn't be bad. We had a man on the show who went to his comedy class. He runs a comedy class, and he said it was run by his wife. And all did I already tell you this?
You did, yeah.
All right, I won't bother saying it again. No, it's already on the podcast. It's pointless. It's a weak anecdote.
I think,
Blondie,
I think he's horrible.
thank you for having us here today.
And on that bombshell, thank you. Good to have you here.
God bless. The Blondie Way, out now on YouTube. Check it out. Don't miss it. Have I missed the opportunity to do that the whole time?
Yeah.
Wow.
The camera has been there. Yeah.
I've been getting in your way a lot.
It's like the board game now.
The board game? Oh, the board. Well, it's called Mare Liberum, Freedom of the Seas. And there's a lovely man who always wanted to design a board game and had started several times. And I said, we'll do it together. We'll split it 50-50. You design it and I'll try and hock it to the audience. But you've got to make a good board game. And he's hard at work on it. I'm going to get to play it. There's an online version. I found that I loved playing. One of the few things I could do with having children and my wife, we can't go out. She doesn't like playing board games that are competitive, was cooperative board games. She will not play a competitive game, but when we found these, solve a mystery together, you can really sit and talk to one another and do something that's not just watching Australian Survivor, which is a fantastic program. But just the kids are in bed. You can't get too hammered because you've got to be up in the morning.
Do your kids go to bed?
Occasionally, yeah.
It's for the novelty. of it.
Ongoing difficulty.
I know.
Boy, that's a night nanny. That's a level of income that would really improve my quality of life.
Would you want a nanny just there while you're sleeping as well?
I don't have a problem with this British thing of having servants. In America, they won't even call them servants. They say the help.
A gentleman's personal gentleman
A
is what it
personal
used to be
gentleman's
called.
assistant. A gentleman's
A valet.
companion. I think there's a couple down the street in Soho. But the important thing... No, we should end... I don't want to... I was here once. I stumbled around 10 years ago, and I'm so moved by it. We had our first Indian restaurant experience yesterday we've eaten at Indian restaurants before, but our first British Indian, and they order the papadams, and there's this swiveling contraption with 3 bowls, and I said, what is this green thing? This is marvelous. And a man next to me goes, mint yogurt? You never seen mint yogurt? And I said, no.
He was a gas.
He was, I hope you like your time. I can't do the voice.
Did the kids like it?
Well, the kids were at home. I got to take the wife and Sam out.
Oh, nice.
And the wife and Sam.
The wife and Sam.
The
The
wife-
old trio hit the cobbles.
Yeah. Record us eating this meal, Sam. It's very important. But with the spicy papadam.
The kids, there's so much. It's not a particularly old apartment building, but there's so much creakiness
Yes.
in my place and there's so many children sleeping in my place, and it's just as likely that someone is. Well, it's more likely that they've gotten up and are trying to let themselves out than that someone has let themselves in. But I always
Yes.
get up to check because I'm a very light sleeper. And the other day, everyone was away. They were on a holiday, which I had to come back from early, and I was asleep in my bed, and I heard some creaking coming up it really sounded like coming up the stairs, and I thought, there's no one else here. If someone's come to murder me,
Yeah.
let them come to me. I'm not getting up.
He died doing what he loved, lying in bed and waiting for someone to murder him.
He died doing what he
that
loved.
has really reminded me.
Lying in bed and watching old talk show interviews on YouTube.
Oh, why not? I mean, Parkinson. We love our Parkinson.
And watching old Ollie Reed
Frost.
interviews.
Ollie Reed. I don't know Ollie Reed.
You don't know Ollie Reed?
Who's Ollie Reed?
Well, you said earlier
Yeah.
when we were downstairs that actors tend to be actually devoid of real
Ollie Reed's a
charisma
good
or
one.
storytelling
Yeah.
capabilities. Ollie Reed is one of the original actors that people got on talk shows more than they
Okay.
did get in movies, and those two facts there's a correlation.
Why
He
did-
was such a good guest, but he showed at every opportunity how difficult it would be to work with him, which was actually not true. He was a notorious alcoholic and hellraiser, they
Okay.
called them. And but actually, he was extremely professional as an actor. A lot of people didn't book him. He was very loyal to the Hammer studio, who gave him his first break, and he moved into he bought a huge place called Broom Hall because he was just looking for a field to keep a horse in, and they found a field, but it had a huge house attached to it. So then he bought this house, and he spent much of the rest of his life doing quite shit films in Europe to try to pay for it. He never really went over to America, partly because he just didn't want to. He was known as the star who stayed, but then later in life, after all of these talk show mishaps, he was not really invited on proper film sets. But supposedly he was actually a consummate professional. He used to really irritate people by getting them completely plastered in the night, and then he'd turn up on time the next day and know all of their lines when they were just recovering. He died. He famously died during the filming of Gladiator, not the show Gladiators.
I have
not seen that
I have
episode.
read his Wikipedia page because I heard about him dying on the set of Gladiator, and they document what he had to drink the day that he did drop dead. Finally,
he had an arm wrestling competition with a load of.
Is this Ollie Reed?
Ollie Reed.
I do know. I knew that he was good. That was on my big
very,
list of
very
things to
good.
look up.
And
I have to remember to ask you
He was
this.
a good friend of my grandfather's.
I'm going to forget to
because
ask
he
this
was a
if I don't.
Wimbledon man.
I have something to say about Wimbledon as well. But I watched Vogue go to your house, and you and your wife are explaining things in your house. And I watched this with my wife, and there is a moment where you go into the bedroom, and you've removed the television from the bedroom, and it's been replaced with a large angled mirror, and you go a little coy. You seem a little shy at that point, and you don't go. I assume that's a sex mirror. But
I mean, we have sex.
Sure, but
My wife and I.
And
there is a mirror there.
and there's proof that in getting rid of a television. We watched that, and my wife said,
I stopped watching
he's put it-
porn
he's
and
put it-
started having sex, if that's what you're getting at.
"He's put it," but you get a little bit shy, and there's the mirror.
I wasn't really
No?
shy.
Okay.
No, I mean, I can see why.
Why someone would think that?
I think I was.
I went out
Still,
and got a mirror
I think I was
immediately
much-
afterwards.
I think I was still slightly, if anything, probably still slightly annoyed at the fact that we got rid of the TV. Because sex is good, but have you seen TV?
TV is. We're trying to naturally family plan.
It wasn't my decision to remove the TV, but I'm happy with it.
I've had a TV installed and a mirror.
And it is
Immediately
convenient,
afterwards, I got
if you know
both.
what I mean.
We didn't have a television for a long time, and there are these fertile periods where, if you are not a contraceptive person, you must abstain from the sex act to prevent there being a...
Yeah, because you don't want any more kids.
well, we would love more kids, but we're...
It doesn't happen on purpose. You know this.
Under certain circumstances, in the Catholic dogma, it is permissible to refrain from having a sexual intercourse
Right.
for the purpose of now's not a good. There's a serious reasons now's not a good time to have kids, and the fact we were
Right.
homeless until very recently, and blah blah blah, living
Right.
out of a truck. So we, my wife needs wisdom. We spoke about it, and she said, "I'd like my wisdom teeth out before we have another child. That would be a sign that we were stable." And I thought, all right, I don't mind that. Have to get that done, but. The fertile period for a woman is when really people are ready to go, and having a television in the room does help. It's very. If you're both lying there thinking we'd like to have
A
sex
natural
now, and
contraceptive.
we're not allowed to do it. Nothing like 3 episodes of Australian Survivor.
Of Jimmy
to-
Carr on 8 out of 10 cats
Yeah.
does countdown.
Shouldn't it be 4 out of 5 cats?
I don't.
What's
know.
going
I've-
on?
I've never seen it. I don't even know. But Jen and I, we celebrate every month either that we're going to have another baby,
Sure.
or that we're not.
Both good
That's
outcomes.
the way that we look at it
Both
now.
tremendous outcomes. And we'd be very
Life works
happy
out
if she
best
became
for
pregnant.
those who make the best out of the way life works out,
Gotta
as
go.
the ancient Chinese proverb goes.
It's really zingy in the Chinese. Now, I want to talk about other ways to promote your show. I keep remembering more things that I want to bring up. You've done this podcast. I think that's a good step. But you shun this the commercial, the whoring of the self. You wouldn't go on 8 out of 10 cats to let people know about the Blondie way.
No, I do quite like Would I Lie to You,
Interesting.
but I've never been invited.
Okay. Well, neither
not-
have I. I have no
No.
way in.
No.
Certainly, I think there are other podcasts
But no,
that
I,
you should do.
I don't really want to go on those shows.
Would you do this experience again with other people? Would that be something you would consider doing?
Yes.
All right.
With,
I have nothing to line up.
It depends on the people.
All right, but
Totally.
I
I mean,
people who have watched this, and then they could perhaps they could email you or reach out to me or something and say, I also loved it. Let Blondie know who I am. Let me have him on to tell more people. Because, hide not your light under a bushel. It's a great show.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't
Also,
want to appear misanthropic, and I'm really touched and really sincerely I appreciate anyone who would want to talk to me.
One last thing. You've made a great show that's quite difficult to sell to a streaming company, because the point of the show is that these people are in some way very evil. So the person who makes the decision about whether or not to then take it off of YouTube and say, that's a Netflix show now, has to watch that and go, oh, is that who I am? And it is. That said, we'd love to work together.
That show, it was very important that show, that first big endeavour and that story was released the way that it was.
Yes.
Because, well, it's obvious.
Hard to see another way it could get
Having
made.
said that, the producers, who I am eternally grateful to, because, of course, it was... I mean, they got it made, really. They were trying to get me to pitch it specifically to the BBC right up until it was released. And I said, with all due respect, as all the best sentences start, the whole point of this, the whole moral of the story is supposed to be that one doesn't or shouldn't need the BBC.
Yes.
And so I was really, not that anyone asked to buy it, but I was really against selling it from the start. It was very, very important to me. I had no idea really the extent to which it would be changed. It was just the principle.
Yeah.
I had a good enough idea of how much of a commitment it would be. In fact, it was actually a massive underestimation, but even the idea that I had, I knew I wasn't going to put that amount of work in to ultimately have something which someone else could have done. It's not my actual job. I have an actual job. I have plenty of real responsibility. I haven't for a very, very long time been looking for something to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to commit myself wholly to this with a view to having something which I was extremely proud of in the end. And it wasn't about... Of course I could look at it... Of course I could say certain lines would be omitted. Mm-hmm. Perhaps even whole plot points they would say stay clear of that. But I was amazed when I started doing it, and we had, as I say, a crew that really, were as experienced as I was not. They started telling me about all the things which would be different. And it's not just offensive lines, but even just that first scene in the Regency with Jack, even that is too long by a lot of formulas standards. Immediately after that,
also you're eating the whole time. The first time we see you as a character,
the whole first,
you don't have a sentence that gets away without an egg roll going in.
Is delivered through eggs and chips and bread, and then skating up Whitehall. We never would have been able, even hypothetically, if we'd had £100 million to get a permit to close off Whitehall
in the rain,
completely populate it with hundreds of supporting artists and police cars and buses and so on. Even then, A, it wouldn't have been very fun, and B, I'm sure someone still would have said, Charlie Granger can't just sit in the back of a Volvo with the boot open, pointing a camera out of it, and you can't do it in torrential rain and so on. It just wouldn't have happened that way. It's not just about the obviously risky moments. It's about the whole construction of it. It wouldn't have been made that way.
It's so beautiful. There's you recover after you. I guess you're going over a piece of metal, and the board wobbles precariously underneath. It's really, there's nothing like that in a sitcom.
That, of course, was one take, my side of it. Yeah, because it was raining so hard, and then, to be honest, I was so enjoying skating that I said, let's just skate up all the way to the studio, and we've got that. And then we shot Jen's side of the phone call to that, but it was quite difficult because I went off script, and we had to. It's a difficult thing to do, to shoot a phone, to shoot two sides of a phone call separately without perhaps a script super, basically.
Sure.
And we did that several times. We filmed the thing and then didn't really think to check back and look at what we'd filmed and be responding to that. So the edit was the whole thing was very difficult.
Am I correct
to
in
edit.
saying that I don't know if you wanted to do this or if you did do this, but someone told me it was all shot in sequence.
Yes.
And
Almost.
But this is never done on a production. You take the location.
I didn't know that either.
You shoot all the scenes at that location, then you just splice them in later on. You shot all the Blondie Way in sequence.
Almost completely in sequence. I think that Spain we did afterwards, which is almost the entirety of episode 5, because we just had to plan it that way.
Is this a full invention, or did that happen, or do you think that would be funny to have that happen?
That sort of happened.
Okay.
Again, it's the same answer to your previous not quite question. I'm not an actor, and I wanted to. I think that reality is funnier anyway.
Yeah.
Byron famously said, "The truth is always stranger than fiction," and I think it's almost always funnier as well. And so
he was
everything
from experience, his truths were pretty full on.
They were, and almost everything that's in the show is true. I've things that have happened, things that I've curated them. I've rearranged things in a certain order. I've padded them out to make them funnier. But everything really happened. I mean, I went to I did do a modelling job.
Yeah.
And I had been poked in the eye accidentally by my younger daughter. And kids' fingernails, they're like,
it's a problem.
Razors. They're like diamonds. So I had a 2.5 millimeter cut over my left cornea, and I didn't tell the client, and didn't tell my agent either, and I had to wear. It was actually also in the time of Corona. So I was wearing a face mask and an eye patch, and I was just and avoiding the light, and it was really, of all the injuries I've ever sustained, it was seriously painful. And it took about maybe 2 weeks to properly heal. But the shoot was on about day 9 or 10, and I did the shoot. In this shoot again, suddenly I've got kids. Suddenly those emails, which I've taken great pride in not even opening, I'm writing back to going, did you want to do this then? Or and so I've got the most money I've ever been paid in my life just for a few hours modelling. I say yes to it, and I turn up to do it, and I'm not especially proud of it, but also I'm getting to this point where I've got to do it, and it's not that big a deal,
Yeah.
And I've still got. I can't really open my eye because of that scratch, and I got paid in full, and they said, "Yeah, really happy. Yeah, don't worry about it. Really happy with it." Apparently, it was the most they've ever paid any male model ever, because they thought. I mean, I suppose technically, I had been playing so hard to get for so many years leading up to it, and I never, ever saw the pictures, and I assume that I can only assume that it's because I looked so bad in them, so past the point of retouching, that they just couldn't do anything with them. But I was legally not.
Eye patch, did they say you leave
well,
that on?
I took the eye patch off, but I still had a very red eye, and it was kind of closed. And the photographer who's in the show, who came to Spain and shot that, is the photographer who I did that.
That's great.
Whom I did that shoot with, and I called him up and I said, "Do you remember when we did that?" And I explained that I'd written this thing and it was about that, and this essentially had happened to someone else, and they'd given me the idea, and they were actually really upset about it. Whereas I would have considered myself very lucky and thought, I've sold out and no one knows. So I kind of explained the general plot to him, and he said, "Oh, do you think I never thought about it. Is that really why those pictures never came out? Because I chased them up a lot. They kept saying they were really happy, but this is a huge company
Was it a Korean brand?
No, it wasn't. In the show it was,
okay.
But this is a huge company who paid an embarrassing amount of money. They would have wanted to do something with what they paid for. And so I assumed and still assume that it was because I looked so bad they didn't use it. And I just thought, what a funny idea that would be to do that, to turn up and look terrible, but be really obliging and polite, but
Then
look
to be
so
stuck
terrible
there.
on purpose.
To be stuck there looking that way for a long,
didn't-
long time. That didn't happen. I'm worried that is going to happen to us after the fire that broke out late last night at Heathrow. I don't know if you're across this. All the flights have been delayed, so we may have a slightly longer trip.
So not only have you put 6 tickets to come here and you another 2, but you're now actually going to have to lose out on a lot of actually
Well, look,
paying work.
if I manage to sell out this gig on Monday, who knows? Maybe we'll Queen Mary it back across the sea.
I've bought 5 tickets.
I would love to.
I've bought 5 tickets, which is
Thank you. You didn't have to do that,
which
but
is
I
more
appreciate
friends
it.
than I have. So
I hope you and your enemies sit there and enjoy the show a great deal. I hope we sell some tickets. I think I'm.
you will. You're huge.
No,
You're
no,
huge. Every comment on my show is how great you are.
I'm not
And
big
I
on-
realised
not
that
big on
sounded
them.
bitter actually when I said that, but it's not. No, you're
Stop
huge.
mentioning me.
You're doing really.
Enjoy.
No, you're doing.
Like they
You're
watch
doing
it.
really, really well, and you deserve to be. You're
I'm
very
but a
funny,
medium
and
toward
you're.
your show. I've made nothing.
No,
I'll
besides
tell
my
you
show,
what's
you're
been
doing
Very nice
I
about the last year. We tried making things together in Australia on a very small base. Things that I really was very proud of. To get seen by 100, 200, very, very small audiences. And what has been nice about going to America and doing all these shows and standing next to very successful people who are doing great things is that now people are going back and finding what we've done before, and I get to go, it's not the work. It wasn't the work. It was just, it didn't have a way for people to see it.
But now there's more eyes than ever. And
Yeah.
they're not together.
I know.
It's really
I have to organise a visa for
Why didn't you get back together?
Well,
This is it. This is our excuse to get back together.
Yeah, this is great, and I've done more.
Well, you're officially of extraordinary talent and capabilities now.
Well,
You've got a visa.
I
assume.
love that O1 visa, but I can get an O2 visa for you. I just have to. I now have enough money to finally pay up for you to get that visa, the American one.
If ever my opinion, well, it wouldn't be anyway as a British person, but if
Yeah.
ever hypothetically my opinion is of any value, if ever I have any sway, I'll tell them.
We'll get a letter
Have to
signed.
get these 2 back together.
We have to do it.
I only really work in collaboration.
Sam says he only really works in collaboration and he can't do
I
everything.
do everything in front of the camera.
Can't do everything in front of the camera. He's not an actor.
Rely on these
He
partnerships
relies on partnerships.
to find James.
Oh, me too. I try and shoot something. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then you try and work with other people. It's not the same.
But it's more. It's like what you do. It's like kind of. It's the framing.
Mm.
Of things. It's shooting something as beautifully as you can, and maybe never telling a joke the whole time. That makes it really funny.
It's brilliant that you have that, and it's brilliant that you realise that you have that.
It's invaluable. And this is to be deracinated in the United States and go, what, I have to build another.
Mm.
There's no way to go and find another group. I see people over there who have a real, they've got a crew that they're moving through the business with, and
I know.
relationships. These relationships cannot be duplicated.
I know these relationships; they don't come along like buses, do they? And in comedy, perhaps more than any other genre, it's essential that you're actually enjoying doing it. I the very first day of the show was terrible, and I asked around. I said, it's supposed to be well. The producer said to me, "It can't be life can't be fun, or making comedy can't be fun 100% of the time."
What did you find to be? Hold on. When you begin
I
the show, your
thought-
first day, you're at the Greasy Spoon.
No, we
No?
this was one of the very few things that we shot out of Siemens. Actually,
Okay.
we shot the first office scene in here.
Yes.
So it was particularly odd, being actually technically on home turf, pretending to be on home turf,
Yeah.
when actually the place was completely invaded.
Yes.
Admittedly,
Seeing an act changes it.
You
You have to
know-
pretend to be at your normal place of work, and it's entirely different.
it just
You-
wasn't fun.
You
It
do
was
get
not
to play.
fun.
That is a sour scene, at least. So at least you get to carry that with you.
It wasn't.
You're putting your slippers on, and by the way, the slippers are great.
Here they are. Probably the same pair. They're looking quite matted. They're not exactly single use.
Ah, worn in.
They're warning. They're pre-loved.
Now,
And-
and thank you for this email I got about becoming a Thames ambassador. I've never been an ambassador I looked at some of the clothes in there. I think I'm too fat for all of them. But if
No.
you have great big sizes,
No.
I'll do my best.
When I
to
said
squeeze
before,
into it.
when I said 5 minutes ago that you're huge,
No, it's not
what I
you
meant was
I'm
that your
slimming down,
ego
and
is
I think I'm
huge.
the only person to have moved to America and lost weight. Just the sheer
you're looking very
anxiety.
well. You're looking very well, and
Oh.
I'm sure that we have things that will fit you. And
I
I
do
would
where I
be,
look great.
and regardless of whether you're wearing Thames or not, you are a Thames ambassador, and you're a huge. There is no greater ambassador or advocate for this show, and for me
And I will
than
continue to do
you.
it.
and you're so appreciated.
Well, let's go in there. Let's look at the clothes. At some point, I do have to get home to my wife. I'm not
Right.
trying to wrap it up. I think that last half hour was the best one.
we did say goodbye a very long time
No,
ago.
this. Hold on. Well, how often are we going to have this opportunity?
Well, you've come all this way.
What else have we really got to drill down on? We're making this movie. I don't want to act in it. I don't think I act well. I have no. It's unbelievable the extent which I can't
say
do it.
that. You said that to me on the phone when
No,
we
I can't
first
do it.
spoke, but you're very comfortable at least being
I can
yourself
be myself.
on a camera.
I can, and if it was the James McCann story, even
but
if
you've not
someone
written
else
your
to
own
do
story.
it. No. But,
Remember when
but-
Danny McBride was on the show and said Kanye, sorry,
Yeah.
came and visited him in where is he? Wyoming or so. Well, that's where he was. So he went to his house, like perhaps even unannounced,
Yeah.
and told him that he wanted him to play him in the movie of his life.
I see no
Sorry, I
reason that shouldn't
interrupted
happen. No, I've heard a lot now of calls that people have gotten from Kanye asking them to do comedy things, and people tend to say no. But Kanye, if you're watching, I'll still have you star in the movie.
To paraphrase Richard Dawkins on
Yeah.
Christopher Hitchens, he said, if invited to debate with Christopher Hitchens, do yourself a favour and decline.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a parallel, a paraphrasing in there about if receiving a call from Kanye.
No,
from you.
I would still pick up the phone. I'm a big fan. Not the music, just the politics. I say that on stage.
I'm a huge fan, and that's the very reason why I would not pick up the phone.
Yeah. Well, don't. I mean, there's some sense of knowing who you're meeting there. I think he's upfront about that. He would.
There's only a couple of people that I have artistically meant so much to me that I really don't want to know them.
Well, you didn't get the chance to meet George Michael, or you did get to meet George
No,
Michael? Because
no.
George Michael is a big through line. Morrissey, would you like to meet
Friends of
Morrissey,
friends.
or you would not meet Morrissey?
No, I sent Morrissey many letters when I
Interesting.
was a child, but
Interesting.
I've never met him, and I don't really want to meet him. Having said that, whenever I know people who have known him or have just met him
Yeah.
briefly, and he's acted the way that he does, I'm always glad, really, because it's
You've
just
gone old
it's-
schoolboy now.
Well, it's true to the it's every rude Morrissey interaction just affirms
Yeah.
who he is. It's true to his.
Even if he was being rude
character.
to one's face, you'd go,
Jen asked-
it's really happening. This is great.
Jen asked him to sign something once, and he was queuing to check into a hotel. Any of us could have told her that he's not going to be in a good mood
Yeah.
queuing to check into a hotel. She said, "Why? Will you sign this for me? I can have a picture with you or something?" And he went, "Absolutely not."
Oh,
And she was fine with it because that is,
sure.
whilst being cruelly rejected, that is the Morrissey that she
The
loved.
thing that hurts people is when it so contradicts their public persona. So Louis C.K.
But then
gets done.
she saw him in the hallway of the
Tell me.
hotel eating a Mackey's.
Mackey's?
No, not really.
Oh, like a big meaty sandwich?
Yeah.
What is a Mackey?
A McDonald's.
Oh,
She didn't really.
Oh, Macca's, we would call
A
it.
Macca's. Oh, sorry.
But I often think about this.
Know
It's people's
something- learn
scandals.
something new
Sometimes
every
it
day.
helps them, and sometimes it. So Kim Kardashian has the sex tape come out.
Mhm.
This only helps her because she's able to really embody that spirit. Jennifer Lawrence has quite playful breasts out photographs, and then suddenly the spirit of America turns on her. Not our Jennifer Lawrence.
And George Michael, of course, the most famous coming out of all time, perhaps.
Wow. My dad insists he wasn't always gay.
My grandmother says the same. My grandmother refuses to believe that he was gay. She refuses to believe it. I mean, it's hard to travel back in time, put yourself in those shoes, in that time, in that context, where
Yeah.
80s artists were generally flamboyant. Not only did people think that George wasn't gay, they treated Wham as a guidebook to getting girls.
Well, Ridgely might have done.
No, well, I
Alright.
think people thought I should look like George Michael because he's got all the girls.
And my dad to this day,
Ridgely's
not a naive
stunning.
man, he still goes. And when he was in Wham, he wasn't gay. It was only after Wham that he became gay. And I think I haven't heard that counterfactual before, but
I think I disagree.
he was cottaging. That's a term you have here. Is this correct?
He was lured into a public toilet
Yes.
in Beverly Hills, I believe, by
it's-
someone who actually was a policeman. And
You don't probably have
And
that
he-
happen
and
on
he
the first one.
well,
What are the odds?
it was entrapment, really. And I think he probably became quite quickly
Yes. Very good. Have you seen
I
Hugh
think
Grant?
he probably came quite quickly to
No, leave it.
he probably came quite quickly to think probably quite soon after. Let me rephrase it for your filthy
much-
mind, James. To think that was a blessing, really, to have come out in that way. He really embraced it. He didn't apologise. I remember he was on whatever that show is in America, and Whoopi Goldberg said, "Do you mind?" Because of course he had a huge Christian fan base, and a lot of Americans didn't like him after that. And he said something along the lines of, "If they don't like me for who I really am, I'm happy to lose them." And of course he did the.
Then he sat
he did
down
that.
and wrote the best songs of his life
He
to
did.
try and hold on to
and
them.
made
I mean, he
the
was
and made
not
the and made
mucking
the
about.
and made the greatest music videos of his life. I mean, he made the outside music video in which he goes in. He's dressed up as a policeman. He goes into the
I didn't know
toilet,
this.
and the cubicles, the urinals turn around, and a disco ball comes down, and it turns into a huge.
I didn't know that. I've never seen this.
He's a policeman. He's gyrating. There is perhaps no greater example of someone taking something which was beyond their control into their control.
Yes.
Taking it in their stride.
Well, I think
fascinating.
so. Hugh Grant
analysis.
picks up a prostitute in
Divine Brown.
Yes, but then he goes on David Letterman to talk about it, and he really does the most Hugh Grant explanation, where I think he says something like, well, "Young lady, I thought you might need a lift home." It's terribly embarrassing situations. Like, you've managed to synthesize that with the Hugh Grant we know and love.
He's another one who. Again,
Same with Eddie Murphy.
the sincerity of it really actually is a welcome novelty to people in pop stars and all actors. They're not even really allowed to speak for themselves now. They all are media trained. They're all do you remember when? Let's not get onto Liam Neeson, but it doesn't
I don't know
really.
what he did. What did Liam Neeson? Oh, I know. Was he on an airplane in Australia with the?
I'm going to go to the
hostess?
toilet.
Okay, no, I
I'm gonna go
understand.
to the toilet.
Oh, be careful with what you're doing there. Are all these cameras still running? This is going pretty well. Do you think of what we'd be able to get done if we had an office that looked like this?
Oh my god. Totally.
I sit in a corner in my room,
Very inspiring, like
my bedroom.
how he's like.
I would love another tea, please. Thank you very much. We were discussing how everything here had to come upstairs, and how wonderful it is having this here. But the tribulation of someone's got to get that safely.
Well, Will and I really enjoy carrying heavy things.
I would think so. I mean, a piano is not easy to get.
We love doing it. We had Joss in the show was not played by the person, but based on one of Will's predecessors, and she was a very sweet woman, but really quite a frail woman. And when I decided that I wanted to have a man in the job, I was so happy to have someone who, like me, relishes the challenge of carrying a pool table across town.
You've got there are so many
many heavy
ways
things
to put a fern in an office that don't involve what? I mean, that must weigh 100 pounds if it weighs anything. It's one of the nicest places I've ever been, and when I'm watching the show, I guessed pretty quickly that it was real, and it was a real office. I didn't know how much was a character and how much would be you, and it's been very lovely to discover that you're a real person. This is
Well, I've been called worse.
I've read some of the comments. This also must be strange going from jumping into one thing and then another, the skateboarding and then to the fashion and then into the show. You're not just building an audience in that field who love you. A lot of people who just, you do the one thing, you do your comedy. It's people who've been along for the journey of the comedy. I'm not taking people who liked one thing I did and saying, now watch something completely different, which the algorithms are so good, you almost never have to have something on the internet that you're not prepared to see, and that must be jarring for them. So you've got an audience that isn't necessarily going to be. They're here for the skateboarding. They're not here for the delicate social commentary.
I approach all of these vocations in much the same way, though.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've always loved about skateboarding is skate filmmaking. A lot of my favourite things in skate videos is not skating.
Yeah.
A lot of what I love about doing clothes is selling the clothes to people, writing newsletters, writing product non-descriptions, I call them, about them.
The
it's
emails
all interaction.
It's one of the best email lists.
Thank you.
I would say an equal first with Ms. Chat Rouge. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
What do you call me?
Yes, it's a Parisian sock merchant, and that's where I buy.
That's where you stole the idea for.
Well, I
for
have a
cheeky
passion
socks.
for socks. I have a passion for socks, but you can buy the socks that they make in the Vatican.
I reckon
for
our
the
socks will
cardinals.
fit you, actually.
These are big. These are a problem. But I'll take whatever you're happy to. I mean, again, I don't know what's good. I'll take whatever you.
Well,
will give
I'm
me
happy.
to wear.
I'm happy for you to take whatever you want,
And we'll
because
make
as
beautiful-
I've said, I'm so appreciative of you endorsing the show and now the newsletter.
Newsletter's great, very funny. Very
Thank
funny.
you.
But I tell you, I'll send you the Ms. Chat Rouges. There's no irony. There's no fun to it. They just love socks so much. And so you'll get an email that'll start with something like, in this barren, forsaken, secular world, truly it takes a sock of remarkable quality to rise the spirit. And it's like, that's what I'm here for.
Sounds like they, like me, are equally, if not more, interested in storytelling than
Yeah.
actually the products. And the products are a vehicle
The socks
for
were not that good. I got all 3 different pairs of socks that they make for the Cardinals, and either uncomfortable or they felt. But I will still be buying some for friends. What is next?
Well,
What awaits you?
Funny you should say that. I have, of course, the show was a massive undertaking, much more than I thought it would be. I actually think that it had I known how much work it would be, I may not have been able
of
to
course.
responsibly actually commit that time to it. I managed to keep my family with me and even get married at the end of it.
Congratulations
and
on
I managed
that, by
to keep
the way.
my business going. This is a business which does not. Thank you, by the way. This is a business which has no autopilot
Yeah.
function. Those newsletters we were talking about.
You have to write them.
I have to write them all the time. I mean, maybe at this point we've done enough of them that technically, hypothetically, some AI machine could pick
I think
anecdotes
something
and
would go-
rehash them all, in a way that people who haven't been on them for years would recognize, not recognize, but no, the business it was a miracle that we managed to do. Whilst I really didn't leave everyone else to it.
Yeah.
I of course couldn't give it my
There's so many
all
hours in a
in
day.
that time.
Yeah.
We had 4 Adidas just between finishing filming and the thing coming out. We had 4 Adidas shoes plus apparel. This Hunter collaboration, this Gilbert and George project, this project with Mark Gonzalez, who's a childhood hero, is a good friend of mine, but he was a
heard him
childhood
this-
hero of mine.
Skateboarding?
Well, he didn't invent skateboarding, but he's
pioneered
certainly
skateboarding.
come in.
You were taking some point. I heard that on your podcast.
He certainly pioneered it, and
Hello, thank you.
we had all the normal.
Now, what is it like to work for this man?
Great.
Nice, perfect answer.
We had all the normal Thames stuff. We had to create. All of this needs adverts.
Yeah.
Promotion rolling out in some way. We had we had so much to do that I couldn't and didn't. It would be completely wrong to say that I left the business to run itself while I made this show.
But certainly now that the show is made, you find things calling you to it, and you putting out fires.
I'm able to give it. This business is the kind of business, as it should be. It's the kind of business which really requires your all.
Yeah.
You need to be constantly coming up with things, if not products, then ways of selling that which already exists. And as I say, we survived doing the show,
Yeah.
making art for art's sake, which is what I consider the show. And now I think the logical thing to both continue to satiate my desire for writing, acting, so on, in a way which is not distracting or detracting from the business. I think that the right thing to do is make art for business's sake, and
Yeah.
I would really like to make a show which is actually about Thames. I have this idea. I think that you could write the words shopping channel on a piece of paper
Yeah.
and slide it across the table to a number of great comedians, and they could come up with something great for it. But I don't think there are a number of great comedians, if any, who actually have their have the shop and have things to sell. And I think that it would be really fun to do something which is overtly, perhaps it appears ironic, but it's actually hopefully effective, selling you things. You could have a shopping channel that's literally, I've looked into this Shopify and YouTube. You can integrate them easily, and you can click on the things. But also,
we're talking about a 24/7 streaming shopping channel.
Not 24/7, but maybe but perhaps not limited to 6 episodes or even seasons. They could keep being made. There could be a shopping channel element to it, and there could be essentially sketches or film recreations. The only rule would be everything has to come back to Thames. Even if you're watching for 3.5 minutes what feels like a drama, and only in the last 10 seconds does it in a way which perhaps even doesn't make sense, turn into an advert, that would be fine. That's what's exciting me at the moment.
Just one idea for content for that I really believe in, that I think you could use, that I fall into on the YouTube, is long meditative videos about the creation of different things. So Snickers bars was a recent one, and I just watched that chocolate melt out on the conveyor line, and you're there, you're tired, you're slumping down. There's some nice classical music playing, and you're watching.
It's literally in the factory.
Millions of Snickers, just watching that machine spin yarn.
Maybe we could have.
I've
posted slideshows of the videos I get sent from Thailand of all the jewelry being made.
Yes.
Maybe we could just set up a camera in there. It's quite amazing to see actually
I'll happily lease out Sam for any projects that you.
Where are you based, Sam?
Where am I?
Yeah.
Adelaide.
You are still in Adelaide. You flew here from Adelaide.
Yeah.
You are joking.
He's the best. I couldn't work with anybody else.
It just gets more and more unbelievable that you flew.
I don't have very many opportunities to do the art that I want to do, and I relish that.
Well, I mean, I've really enjoyed working with you today, and we are obviously quite far away. And I can't, perhaps to the degree that James can, conjure up ways of paying for things, but it's good to know you.
I don't know what's a nice thing to say about that, but there's not much in the way of payment.
Yeah, I'm not paying Sam very much for this trip.
Well, I mean, your ticket.
Sam's lost money because he had to book his own flight. I'll put it that way. The second time around, but I will find a way. I feel on the precipice of earning.
Well, let me give you some socks.
At the very least, I like this thing of a drama show, and then it comes back to the product. I mean, this is what
it could be good.
That everything ultimately has to come back to the boat. I felt it was a good way of just channeling ADHD, whatever that is, whatever that need to do different things all the time, and then have people around me going, "Why are you doing a poem? Why are you doing a art show? Why?" Just to have some umbrella where you can say, "Well, it's all for that." It's so liberating to just explain that to family members, even.
I completely understand, and perhaps this is a much more long-term, broader idea. But I would like, in the process of doing that, we started a YouTube channel for the show. Essentially, I mean, it already existed, but we didn't really have anything on it. And I would like to. I really, really strongly believe in YouTube.
Yes,
I really love it.
I just paid for premium. You'll be getting some money for that flight. I never had premium.
I really
totally
believe in it, and I really despise almost all the other social medias. Not that you could even really put YouTube under that, really call YouTube that. But what I think is brilliant about it is I think it's the hardest one to crack.
Yeah.
But if you can essentially create your own channel, I think that would be brilliant. And the show's up there. We've finally, we couldn't do this before because we were actually finishing editing the show always maybe 15 minutes before we actually promised that it would go live. So we couldn't before put them in vertical and subtitle them and cut them up into clips, but we have done now, and we're posting them regularly on the YouTube now. We're trying to build up the YouTube. That's where the shopping channel new idea will live, and I really do hope down the line that that channel itself will be a big project, and maybe even a vehicle through which, or a channel which can support work which is not necessarily even mine.
Yeah.
I would like you, I really want to see people who I like succeed, and I it's a big idea, but to be successful enough myself that I could help another person that I think really deserves it out is a much longer goal, as I say. But
it's very hard to do, but it is it's so rewarding, and I get to do it very rarely now. But I was on a plane with Shane Gillis, I met him in Australia. He's since become the biggest comedian in the world. I think that's safe to say. And he talks at length about the only thing you can really buy is helping people. You know, not just in like a vague general sense of like donating to some charity, but like really finding people who can do things and making things happen for them that you think that they should be able to do is so rewarding. And when one has that,
you believe that,
when one has that ethic, I mean, wealth is in some ways terrible. You know, there are ways in which being poor is good. But I think one of the very nice things about Catholic social teaching is that you should have the money requisite to your station, you know? So to sit idly on your cash and just to live a luxurious life is nothing and makes people sad. But if you have the money and you're able to use it to help people and make beautiful things, this is the point of being here, you know? We have to do it while we can. God bless you. All right.
Thank you.
The Blondie Way, out now.